So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly back up and take a view of what the application process looks like. So I'm going to act like the admissions officer in a college. So I'm going to tell you when I get an application, what do I see? So then you get a perspective of how you're differentiated. So as a quick background, I'm an engineer by training, and I ended up doing a master's in engineering from Stanford and then went back for an MBA to Stanford. So I ended up getting 2 graduate degrees from there. And then we have 3 kids. Josh is here, our youngest, and then 2 more. Plus we have a bunch of, I'd say another 15 or 20 teenagers that have applied to colleges at different times, and either I or one of our family members have been able to help them understand what the pluses and minuses are for different colleges. So whether you're East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, South, that's what we've been able to do. So the first thing that stands out is on the left-hand side, you'll notice 3 columns. PR means profile. So an admissions officer, when they get your application, is putting you into what's called profile 1, 2, or 3. By the way, these are not hard and fast rules. They differ from college to college. But generally speaking, you want to understand where you fall. So PR 1, 2, 3, I'm just going to pick PR 2 right in the middle. So when somebody's GPA is about 3.75, unweighted, they are in the middle of the pack, let's say. You go next to the APs. Everybody know what APs are? All right, everybody knows what APs are. Those painful things that hit you and you hate them, but you got to get through them. For the 6th graders, you don't know what they are. Somebody say what an AP is to our 6th grader. Go ahead. What's an AP? There you go. Perfect. Advanced placement course. Everybody know what weighted GPA is? So it turns out that you actually get evaluated out of a 5.0 scale instead of a 4.0 scale on GPA. So the middle person who had a GPA of the profile of 3.75 took 5 to 10 APs. So one of the first things you realize is that the market, the application process, and the competitiveness has really gone up in the last 10, 12 years. While it was okay to do 1 or 2 APs, people are doing all the way up to 10 to 15 APs now. It's almost impossible, but there are a lot of students that end up doing that. You just need to know that that's what's happening out there. And then, for example, if the GPA that you get with your APs adds another 0.4, then your actual weighted GPA is 3.75 plus 0.4. Everybody following that? Raise your hand if you have to raise your hand if you're not following me, because you're going to leave here knowing what application processes look like. Then when you go to the AP test scores, these are test scores at the bottom. So the first is what you do in school, the GPA, the APs, and weighted GPAs. And notice the title says academic. So what you're really doing is telling the college, this is my academic profile. Other than my GPA, I took APs, weighted GPA, and my test scores were 4 out of 5. The APs are usually weighted on a scale of 1 to 5. ACTs is a test. Everybody know what an ACT is? There are SATs and SAT2s. Now, you will hear that some colleges accept ACT versus SAT, some do both, some do one or the other. You need to be prepared to take them all. It just betters your chances of getting into the college that you're going for. And so ACT is an exam that has a maximum score of 36. So if you're at 34-ish, you're in the middle column. SATs is a max of 1600. It used to be 2400 when there were 3 sections, now there's 2 sections. And then SAT2s are also at 800. So this is just a general profile of how your academic performance is weighted.
What is SAT2?
Sorry?
What is SAT2?
Anybody know what an SAT2 is? Come on, high schoolers. Seniors, you know what an SAT2 is? Yes? No? Okay. Subject assessment or subject achievement test in that subject. So APs are advanced placement inside the school. SAT2s are subject-based, so it'll be SAT2 physics, SAT2 biology, SAT2 math, versus plain SAT is overall SAT. So SAT2s are subject-based in depth.
Are they different from the AP test which the college board takes?
Absolutely different from the AP test. APs are held, AP tests are scored AP but taught in a semester in your classroom in a class. SAT 2s are what you take in a 3-hour test, and they're by the overall state and fed government. Anybody want to add anything to SAT 2s? Yeah?
Where are those tests taken? Like every high school takes them?
They're not high school specific. SATs and SAT 2s are not high school specific. I'll let George answer some of those questions.
First thing I want to say is these are some profiles for really good Greek school. If your profile does not look like this, please do not get discouraged. Just work, try your best, and apply to different types of schools, and you'll get into one of them. So don't get discouraged if you look up like this and you're a senior and you're like, my numbers don't look anything like that. This is a very specific type of school. There's multiple different types of school. SAT 2s are amazing because not only do you get to show your prowess in AP tests and your GPA, but then you have another way of showing how good you are. That's the whole point of all these different avenues, is that you have 5 different avenues to show these colleges that I not only did well in this SAT, I did well in this SAT 2, this AP test, and my GPA. I also took an AP class in this subject. Now you show them 5 different ways that you show that you mastered the subject. Were there any other questions on these profiles?
What is the incremental weightage of doing SAT 2 versus SAT? Meaning, are you getting proportionate amount of return on them in terms
So-
of time investment?
The question was, what is the proportional weightage of SAT 2s? The answer is, totally depends on the college. Some totally ignore them, doesn't matter if you submit them or not. Some will go ahead and say we require them, and some will have a weightage that is not available to the public, so you don't know. So this is what you read up on an application process for each college and say, what do they want? And when we get into how many colleges you apply for, which Josh is going to cover, and what they ask for, we'll cover that. Okay, so this is just the starting point. What you need to then consider is that there's a whole extracurricular profile that the admissions officer will cover. And notice here I've got PR 1, 2, 3 again. So let's just look at the things that you do in school that are not part of academics. So a lot of you will get involved in the leadership side. So are you part of a student council? Are you a vice president in the student council or the president of the student council? On the service side, some people will do community service. So if you come to the Gurdwara Sahib and do service, you'll get number of hours. And some people will have 100 hours of community service over their high school career, like 9th, 10th, 11th, and when you're applying 12th. Others may have more. Some will be part of debate speech teams, others will be part of robotic math teams, or research teams, or dance, music, art, or sports. So if you're a tennis player and you're a JV player in 11th grade, or a varsity player in 12th grade, that's weighted by these colleges. Some will totally ignore it. So it depends by college to college. This is not a formula where at the end you say, oh, my number is 3.9842. That is not what we're going after. What we're going after is understanding that these are the different criteria by which you are weighted by different colleges, and each one will have their own. So, moving on, there's a third part that you're evaluated after you look at the academic and extracurricular, which is called your experience. So, there are kids who in the 9th, 10th, 11th grade will go ahead and work the summers. So for example, if I'm working on my own business, my dad owns a restaurant and I go there and work over the summer, that's one thing. And am I just doing manual work there? Or did I set up a website for them? Or did I go ahead and open a branch of a business? I know kids who've done that in this area. On the service side, did I tutor others? Did I go feed the homeless? Did I run a camp for the homeless? These are just different ways to think of the different grades of increasing involvement. Research side, I know of kids from this Khalsa school who I'm thinking of one specific kid who in the 11th, 12th summer for 3 months went and did research at Berkeley in a lab that was doing some kind of software programming research. Internships, I know kids here who've gone and shadowed physicians because they want to be a doctor when they grow up, so they'll go for 2 weeks in the summer and shadow people. Or follow any kind of passion projects. There are kids here who launched their own websites. There was one who loved Bhangra so much, started a Bhangra business and said, for $50 an hour, I'll come and teach you Bhangra. So when you're applying to a college is looking at not only your academic on the top left, but the extracurricular as well as your experience to get a full picture of who you are. Now, it's almost impossible to do all of this, right? So the idea is not to kind of blast you with numbers, but to say the reality is that if you look across this, there'll be one of you who will be able to say, look, the yellow is meant to be kind of a profile. My GPA is so much, I've done so many APs, my SAT score is so much. On the top right, I was not part of any leadership, but I did service when I was part of the debate team, and then I was in a dance team. And by the way, in robotics, I went national, right? So that's kind of how somebody may look. And in the experience side, I used to go feed the homeless on Saturdays because my family did that, and I just went with them and did that, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to stop there and see if you have questions on just what we've covered so far. If it's overwhelming, it should be. Why? Because there's so much going on. You need to find out what you're doing where. So there's a lot happening on this slide in these 3 different areas, but I'm going to pause and take questions. Questions, go ahead.
How to track proof of these things? Like we do a lot of volunteering, but proof has to be there somewhere. How to track it?
So the question was, what kind of proof would people look for? Actually, let me broaden that question, right? When you're writing college essays, and Josh is going to cover that specifically, what's the proof that you actually did something, right? Or you actually happened. So it turns out that there's a certain honor code in applying to colleges. So you don't want to make up stuff. Colleges are known for sometimes reaching out and looking at your social media and figuring out that you actually do that. So if you said, for 2 months, I went to Amritsar and I worked with the Pingalwada, and I did Seva for morning to night 2 months, and they check your social media and you were sitting in Cancun on a beach in Mexico partying for 2 months, they will not only reject your application, they'll send it to the other 10 colleges and they'll blacklist you. My point is, you want to be absolutely truthful about everything that you're doing. And it is usually, let's just take one, for hours of service. Some colleges will say, fill out your hours of services and attach proof. So the Gurdwara Sahib and other places usually give out certificates. This person completed 20 hours from this day to this day. Or they attended our robotics camp in this summer. So you actually do attach proof. And again, varies by college. So as a general theme, you don't want to make up stuff and you want to stay true, because some colleges will ask for proof. Other questions? I want the students to ask questions. I know parents have a lot of questions. I wish parents were applying all over again, but it's the students who are going to be applying. Questions? All right, so.
I have a question.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
If you can just clarify for the students when they should take the SAT 2, maybe that'll be helpful, because I think a lot of them don't know about the subject test.
So-
And when they should take it, why they should take it.
Got it. So the question is, when you take SAT 2s on a timeline, let me broaden that question to say, I want Josh to come up and give you a sense of, generally speaking, when you take APs, and then when you take ACTs, SATs, and SATs, the whole testing mechanism, which is outside of school. Because school will tell you certain things, but then you're on your own for all these other tests. So once you, and he'll share with you primarily 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade as to how this evolves.
So I'll start with the PSAT because that's the first one that you're supposed to take. The PSAT should be administered by your school in an actual day of school, and everybody takes it. The PSAT is not an actual reported score usually. You can get awards off of your PSAT score. The PSAT stands for practice SAT. You can get awards based off of that, and you can send that to colleges. I'm not sure how heavily they weight that because they actually care about the SAT. Whereas when we should take these, so generally I would consider trying to ramp up on APs every year. So 9th grade, usually there are not any APs that you can take, but 10th grade there are some, 11th grade there are some, and 12th grade there are some. So I would try to ramp up each year with more and more APs. As for taking your SAT and ACT, I would start start with maybe fall semester junior year as like the earliest. Maybe shoot for spring junior year for sure, taking at least the SAT and ACT and SAT 2s. In which case, if you don't do well, you can also take it again senior fall. The issue is if you wait for senior fall, it's a lot to start practicing for SATs, but also write college apps and do all of that. Figure out which colleges you want to apply to. Plus, you're taking probably a pretty hard course load and you just started with that course load. SAT 2s, I would suggest taking when you actually take that class. So for example, if you take AP Bio in 10th grade, I would take your SAT 2 at the end of 10th grade. SAT 2s I think are offered the same dates as SATs, minus 2 or 3 dates, so you should look into that. I would suggest taking them at the end of the year. So if you're taking AP Bio, you've already studied for the AP test, you just have to study maybe 20 to 30% different material for the SAT 2s. There's a lot of overlap that occurs there. Questions? Yes, please.
Is the SAT 2 from College Board? Because I heard somewhere that they canceled and they discontinued doing those tests.
Interesting. Okay, so it is from College Board. They might have discontinued it. They might have come up with other tests as well. Take a look at those. Yeah. What other questions do you guys have?
So if you take, like, I remember going back on the management track here, if you took certain tests, your tests and you applied to college, the tests were automatically shared with the college?
No,
Is
see,
that still the case now?
you have to send your own tests.
Okay,
so
so
they're not
if you
automatic.
take like 2 or 3 different times, which you can choose, they can choose which one you send.
I think that's generally the case for most colleges. Some colleges make you send all of your test scores. This whole college application process is like a black box. We're trying to abstract some of that away here, but the issue is that like a lot of colleges require different things, which is the unfortunate thing. I would also say, even if you don't take AP classes, like say you grew up learning Spanish and you never took AP Spanish, I would still suggest taking that AP test for that class. You do not have to take an AP class in order to take the AP test. Same thing for the SAT 2s. You can take SAT 2s, if they still exist, in any of the subjects that you feel confident in. Any other questions? Again, please don't get like scared or stressed out looking at these numbers. These are just some numbers that we put out there. I think what you should just take away from this is try to be the best in every way that's possible for you in whatever you find important. If you find something's really important for your own sake, you should really try doing some super well in them. Because college applications and admissions are kind of like luck of the draw at some point. So at the end of the day, if you do a lot of things, everything you do in high school is for college admissions and you don't get into college, at least you should be able to walk away and say, hey, I did that for myself. I didn't do it for college admissions. So the first thing you should be thinking about is, how can I better myself as a human, as a Sikh, as a community member? What can I do to enrich myself in my learning? What can I do to give back to my community? And then the second question, once you've done all of that throughout high school, is how do I reflect on this and give it to a college admissions officer? And if they reject you at the end of the day, that's their loss. Because at the end of the day, you have built up yourself in the way that you enjoy being.
Did most of you follow that? Do you want to repeat anything, questions? Because we're going to switch tracks and go in a different direction. I'm not going to do numbers anymore. Yeah.
I just requested to elaborate a little bit more on the extracurricular activities. What kind of activities students should get and at what stage?
So the question is, extracurricular, what kind of activity should you get in and at what stage? So let me actually change the question. So I'm an admissions officer. I got 2 applications. They were absolutely identical. There was no difference between the GPA and this and nothing. And they're both applying for mechanical engineering. Exactly the same, right? Got it? Exactly the same. But one person actually worked in the robotics lab of their school for 3 years. They were part of robotics, they were part of a team and they went there. Who should I take in mechanical engineering? The one who went and did robotics camp and understands engineering, or the one who didn't? It's a trick question. Obviously, they will take the person who did the robotics camp because they showed the passion to do it. And they are applying for mechanical engineering in my university. So I know that this person knows what they're getting into, therefore they're worth it, they've proven themselves, so I'll take them. That's where extracurricular activities make a huge difference. That's the way you want to think about it. So let's say you want to be a doctor, and you took AP Bio and you're taking on the biology track and you're applying to college in the pre-med, biology or some other major, but you want to go for medicine. So you're exactly the same application. There are two people with same GPA, but one person spent 3 months at El Camino Hospital volunteering and rooming patients, taking their blood pressure, looking at their weight, talking to doctors. So who would I accept? The person who's already done 3 months of patient care and shown they have passion, or the person who didn't do anything? So you have to use extracurricular activities to prove to the college that you actually do care, you actually have passion. Now don't do it just because you're trying to fill an application. That's what Josh was saying. You shouldn't be going outside your boundary of comfort or how you want to challenge yourself. So for example, if you like research, then go do some research. If you really love dancing, then do the thing. Be part of the Bhangra team. Be the choreographer of the Bhangra team or the captain of the Bhangra team, right? For example. Or if you're in sports, you really like swimming. Actually, do you wake up at? We have a person who was here who woke up at 4:30 a.m. every day. He was a rower. He would drive. His parents would drive him to the bay. At 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. every morning in the cold bay, he would do rowing. But he got so good at it, he was on the state team, and then he ended up going to a really good school on the East Coast. So, he just liked rowing. I don't know how he got into it, but he got into it. So if there's some passions that you need to round out yourself, that you really enjoy, that's where extracurricular sets you apart. Any questions on extracurricular? Oh, here's another one, sorry. We know again those are not offered inside their school. This kid loved soccer, but the soccer team wasn't that good at school. Now everybody know what AYSO is and CYSA is? Anybody know the soccer? Yeah, I'm seeing some nods. So when they joined a regional team, didn't depend on the school team. So that's how extracurricular shows up. Questions on that? I would really encourage the high schoolers to kind of think through that. Go ahead.
I just wanted to throw out that everyone here is from CPP. So if you guys ever need
Why don't you stand up so we can hear you?
if you guys
And
ever
could you
need help,
tell us which, are you in school or college?
I'm in college.
College, good. Which year?
First year?
Freshman.
Yeah.
Yeah, say it loudly so they
But
can.
I was just saying that if you guys ever need help looking for opportunities, we have a science class if you guys are a biology major and you guys want to do some internships or do some work over the summer, we can help you guys find applications to apply there. And even if you're not in biology and if you want to go into engineering and stuff, just always reach out and we can probably find someone to help you or help you ourselves. So just always reach out to either your tutors or you guys can stop by the office after your English classes and just ask hey, I'm free this summer, I want to go into this major in college, can you guys help me find some opportunities in this field?
And you mean the office here?
The Culture School office,
Yeah.
we're there after English.
Could you
for about an
tell us your
hour.
name also? Your name?
My name's Darlene. Everyone should know me.
Awesome. Other college kids here? Who's from college? Okay, 2, 3. Please jump in as, could I get a poll on which year?
I'm a second year.
Second year?
I'm a graduate student.
Graduate student? Freshman?
First year.
Freshman. So there are 4 college kids here, and then when we get into the essay writing, we'd love to hear your opinions also. We're going to get into that next. So, the numbers we were talking about are just numbers, really, but they don't define you. So think of it as the core is set around numbers, and then who are you? So certain colleges have 2 levels of filters. The first filter is, did you make the academic level that they want you to? And if not, then if you make it, then they look at your essays for you. So let's broaden the picture a little bit. So we have 20 minutes. Okay. Let's broaden the picture a little bit. So on the left-hand side, you'll see, look, my background is academic extracurricular experience and recommendations. Recommendations are from your teachers in school or people you've worked with over the summer to the college. I'd say a lot of colleges ask for recommendations, 2 to 3 recommendations, and they need to come from your teachers. So as you're doing these subjects and learning from your teachers, make sure you have a rapport with them so that when you go back and say, could you write me a recommendation? They will write you a recommendation, and that really helps in the process. And then when you look at your essays, and Josh is gonna go in detail about essays, they usually talk about what do you want to do in life, what's your experience, tell us about your roommate. There are different prompts, and we're gonna do some today. But please make sure, as Josh was pointing out, that these are gonna be the best 4 years of your life, roughly 18 to 22 or 17 to 21 when you go to college. So make sure you go into a college and a major that you enjoy. Anybody know what percentage of entering college students change their majors? Anybody know? Anybody want to raise their hand and tell me how many kids change their majors in college? What percentage? 10%, 50%? Only the students, not the parents. Anybody know? Any other college kids want to volunteer that number? How many colleges, do you know the number? 75%.
Whoa.
75%. So, I want to be a doctor, but I ended up being a mechanical engineer. I wanted to be a biomedical engineer, I ended up being, it changes. A lot of kids change. So, make sure you go somewhere where you really enjoy it. And it's not because something bad happened, it's because something good happened. So they were trying to do certain things and they liked something better. And that's what college is all about, that you should be able to steer and make up, go in the direction you want. And then you want to talk about location, and then what your advisors and friends talk to you about. On the right-hand side are typically words that I have heard from admissions officers in the last 15, 20 years. I've been spending some time with them off and on as to what they look for. So are you a person, look at the list on the right, can you handle the academic rigor? So you're trying to aim for a college, but if you get in, would you actually survive or score well? Are you empathetic to your fellow human beings? Are you a team player? So extracurricular, if you're part of 2 or 3 teams, they go, yeah, this person actually has played sports. They know what it is to work in a team, versus you've never really played in a team sport. Will you add to the diversity of the student body? Now, this one I can say without a doubt, across the board, we score 10 out of 10 on, right? Because when we go, and I cannot tell you how many kids have gotten into really good universities, showing the deep values of Sikhi they have and how it's reflected in their life. Seva is a big one, that because of this. Kirtan is another big one. Know kids who actually recorded Kirtan and submitted it as a actual audio video file in their application process. Then leadership, curiosity, and all that. So I'm not going to hold up Josh anymore. I'm going to turn to him. He's going to stay a little bit at the end, but he's in finals week, and Josh is finishing his master's in computer science. He finished his bachelor's at Stanford, and he graduates in 4 days. So he'll be finally. He promises he'll graduate in 4 days. I should not put him on the spot like that. So I'm going to have him walk you through now how to do essay writing, which is a critical part.
Before we even go into essay writing, is there any questions, any comments? Are we stressed? How are we feeling? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Double thumbs up, I love to see it. Some of the parents are double thumbs up too, I like it. Okay, cool. This should hopefully not stress you out. Haji.
What you should cover is how they should manage their time management during high school, because they have just so many things for them to do. So what they should be conscious of.
Yes, okay. So the question was, how do you manage your time in high school? So I think a lot of parents take the approach to college applications and college admissions. Do whatever best your challenges, like your choices or whatever you can to get into college. In my opinion, my dad said college is the best 4 years of your life, and you should really figure out what you want to do in those 4 years. You have about 80 years to live. Those 80 years should be the best 80 years of your life. You shouldn't try to do 4 years for the next 4 years, and the next 4 years, and the next 4 years. That leads to a constant rat race. In my opinion, what you should spend your time on is what you enjoy the most. And usually when you spend the time on what you enjoy the most, you end up being the best of it. So I'm not saying go for mediocrity. What I'm saying is be the best, but be the best in what you really enjoy. If you really, really love poetry, that's what you should try for. Read the Gurdwara. It's like the greatest compilation of poetry in the world, right? Go through different things and try different things out. You are not too young to try, or too old to try different things out. So the whole point is find what you enjoy and continue that on. The whole point of essay writing is that you can bring that across to a college admissions counselor. So for high school, it should all be for yourself. Whatever time, it should be for you. And then once you come around fall, spring, or fall, senior fall, what you should do is you try to package it the best way possible for college admissions counselors. Any other questions?
This is like taking back to scholarship. So how do you really find like an internship or a scholarship that really works for you? Like where do you look? How do you know that like that's what you value?
Yeah, so the question was, how do you find internships and scholarships that are for you? I'll start with the internship side of things. So I think one of the best things that you can do is you can utilize your network. So there are not a lot of internships that are posted for high school students, just because not as much experience. But a lot of people are looking for just help in general. So whether you utilize your network or you just literally reach out to professors, high school teachers, college students, hey, I really like your research there, can I join on your research? Ask away, ask CEOs. Like the worst thing that happens when you ask someone is they say no and you're back to square one, right? And it's already a no. So really just try to put yourself out there and tell people what you can bring to them. And then once you have that, you can try going for internships and things like that. Please do.
So roughly 15, 20 internships later, I can tell you that the following works. Walk up to me afterwards, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can suggest, look at the companies that I'm part of, and if you want to work there, that's one. Two, last time we did this, somebody walked over and said, I want to shadow a doctor, my wife's a doctor, I can introduce you, you can do the doctor thing with her. Three, you want to do a research project at Berkeley or Stanford, I can give you names of, or you can look up online, of 50 professors, 100 professors, which is what he did. He just bombarded them with email, and 3 people got back to him, and he got the internship, right? So you have to get up and push, and the universe will give you about a 3% answer. 100 emails, 3 will come back, you'll get 1. But if you keep thinking that somehow it's going to happen, it's not going to happen by sitting, right? So you got to push. So come by later and we can talk about it, or if there's time in the end, we can push that further. You want to say?
Yeah. The second question was about scholarships. So just in general, research is your best bet here. You have access to more information than all of our ancestors combined. Google, ChatGPT, whatever it is. So as for college scholarships, there's the FAFSA. There's also different scholarships that you should look up. That's a very individualized question, so I'll leave it to look on Google, try to figure it out there. Let's go into the college selection process. So there's a bunch of different universities out there. Universities that exist in the United States, UK, outside, both of those areas. I don't know why I chose those 2 areas. Generally, when you're trying to choose a college, you should think about a couple different factors. One, what majors actually exist at this college? If you really want to go into marine biology, maybe choose a college that's near the ocean or the sea, because they have better marine biology programs out there. There are certain universities like Stanford that offer something called symbolic systems, which is a mix of cognitive science and computer science that only really exists at Stanford. If you want to go into agriculture, you can go to UC Davis. UC Davis has one of the best agricultural majors in the world. If you look at hotel management, Cornell is your school to go for. So really try to think about what majors you're trying to go for and what you are interested in, and then from there you can make your list smaller. Now, if you're going for a pretty common major, it doesn't really make your list smaller, that's great. You have more options. Second thing is, what are your goals with going to school? Do you want to go into research? Do you want to go into grad school? Do you care about entrepreneurship? Do you want the co-op system? So all these different questions can be answered by going on Google, but really there's different schools with different profiles. So for example, Stanford is very entrepreneurship based. About 30 to 40% of my kids in my grade went to start their own startups in computer science, went to start their own startups. So they really care about entrepreneurship. Versus one of my cousins went to Northeastern, and another cousin went to University of Waterloo. And those two schools are co-op systems. What they really wanted to do is they wanted to leave school knowing exactly what type of work they wanted to do. And so they ended up going through 5 or 6 co-ops to really refine their approach to work. The co-op system, by the way, is you get a semester of school, a semester of work, a semester of school, a semester of work. And so you actually graduate in 5 years instead of 4, but you end up working throughout all of that. What type of flexibility? So for example, a school like Brown lets you create your own major. Other schools really have rigid things that you have to do, like Columbia. You have to do those things for sure in order to graduate, maybe outside your major. What is the research focus of the faculty? If you want to get into research, or you really care about, for example, natural language processing, what type of professors are doing what type of research? So think about the faculty, because they're the ones who are going to be teaching you. A lot of universities have a very research-based focus, which means the professors are there to do research foremost and then teach second. So in those types of schools, you want to go to them because you want to do research and you want to go to grad school. If you really care about the instruction that you get, maybe you want to go to a different type of school. Geography. I think this one maybe should be a little less important, but to each person is their each own decisions, right? So do you really care about being close to home so you can help out with the family business? Do you want to be far from home so you don't have to help out with the family business? Do you want to be in a city because you've always lived rural? That type of thing. The next is social. So this is where I group together the type of clubs that you can be at, the type of extracurriculars you can be at, and the demographic makeup. So some people really want to go to schools where the majority of people are computer science, or where there's a huge 6-student association. Try to think about those things, whatever you want to do in that case. The last one is cost. So colleges do cost money. We put that should be least important, but that's clearly not the reality for a lot of people. I think college is very important, and personally, that type of debt or whatever, however much it costs, personally is worth the 4 years of college. But each person has to make that decision for themselves. But that is something that you should think about when you apply to colleges. I will say there is many scholarships out there, many jobs out there that can help you get through almost every college out there. So I wouldn't try to stop yourself from trying to aim high just because you think the cost is high. There are many different ways and pathways that you can pay for college. Okay, so how many colleges should I apply to? It's a question that comes up a lot. I've seen things from people applying to literally 2 schools being like, if I don't get into these 2 schools, I'm gonna go and work at my family business. To, I'm gonna apply to 30 schools because I need to at least get into one, and college is all I want to do. I would say you should apply 15 applications. So I say applications because the UC application, however many UCs there are, they all count as one application. So the way that I would want to think about this is 3 different categories: safety, target, and reach. So safety are the schools that you have a pretty good shot at getting into. Of course, the college admission cycle is pretty hard to figure out, so you don't really know which schools you can for sure get into or not. But by using 5 of them, you have a better chance of at least getting into a school you want to go to university that is a safety school. The next is target. The target schools are, hey, this is what I kind of, my whole profile is geared to this type of school. I seem like should be a good fit, but not really sure what happens here. The reach is, this school has below a 15% acceptance rate, 10% acceptance rate, whatever it is, whatever your profiles match, and literally nobody can guarantee they get into this school. It is just the luck of the draw. One thing that they said at my school's beginning ceremony was that if we replaced the 2,800 students that got in this year with the next 2,800 students that we thought were good applicants, the pedigree of this class would not have changed. So literally we were just as qualified as the next 2,800 students, but for some reason we were chosen. So that's what I'm talking about with reach. Even if you have the perfect profile, you can still not get in. Are there any questions about this? Again, this very much matters from person to person. This is just a general guidelines that I would use to think about it. If not, we can go into college essays.
So are there any online tools or applications which will help you decide, or the kids decide what, as per their profile, would be a safety target or a reach school out of thousands of schools available?
I'm not sure if there's online tools that exist, but most schools do have college counselors. You can talk to students from different schools, see what their profile looks like, talk to parents, talk to like trusted mentors and areas. So like, it is a very hard question to answer for anybody, and there's no like right or wrong answer, but it's kind of just best guess scenario. I think you have more information.
You'll notice there's a lot of time required for this, right? So as students, here's the guideline I've seen that work for at least the students I'm familiar with. Working backwards, in 12th grade, in the first semester, you're putting in close to 12 hours a week in this process. A day and a half, so like all day Saturday, half day Sunday, think of it that way. Actually almost 2 days. Almost 2 days. You come back to 11th grade and it's about a day, day and a half, and you come back to 10th grade, it's about half. So this is not a, let me see what the list is. This is a ongoing process, day in, day out, week in, week out, over 2 years to figure out where you want to go. Talking to people, doing different things, this whole process of which college, which application, what essay. So doing quick things doesn't work. It slowly gels over time. So the sooner you start, the better off you are.
Essays. Yeah, so let's talk about essays. So I seem to be prefacing a lot of things, but essays are a source of a lot of, I think, stress for a lot of people. But let's change our mindset when we talk about essays. Essays are your opportunity to show your admissions officer how cool you are. This is your situation where you can have full reins over everything that happens. It's not, your teacher does not matter, and the bad participation grade they gave you. This is fully you, and you get to show yourself to your admissions counselor, hey, I'm super cool, take a look at what I really like to do. That is what I think, if you change your mindset about college essays, it makes it a lot easier to think about them and write them. So let's go through a couple steps that I think are pretty important when you think about college essays. The first is, you gotta note the deadline. A lot of people, not that many though, a lot of people do end up missing deadlines for schools because different schools have different deadlines. For example, for USC, to get the presidential scholarship, you have to apply by December 1st, but to get the regular admissions, you have to apply by a different date. So think about the deadline, make sure you get a note. What I would do is I would create a spreadsheet for different schools that you're thinking about, different range, target, and safety. Note down the deadlines, note down how many questions they have and what their requirements are. Do they require the SAT? Do they require SAT 2? I guess they don't require SAT 2 anymore, but like, what do they require? The next thing is, you should fully understand the prompt. In order to write an essay, you have to know what you're writing that essay about. So really, really break down the prompt. So for example, for this UC essay, they literally tell you things to consider, how to break down this prompt. So most colleges won't do that. What you should do is, we'll come back to this slide by the way, but what you should do is by yourself, break down the prompt and really get behind what is the college admissions officer trying to understand from me? What information can I provide to really answer this question? Some schools like Harvard literally just say, write us an essay for however long you want and tell us something about it. And so in that situation, it's all up to you. But other schools, I remember a Stanford application was write a letter to your roommate and tell them about yourself. So that is literally an application where you're supposed to say specific things maybe about your living or about your hobbies and things like that. The next thing is make your answer personal. A lot of people talk about overarching goals and values and things like that. A lot of us have the same values. We all want to help people, right? Or hopefully we all want to help people. Really get deep into what it means to you and the why question. Every time you answer a question, I want you to ask why to yourself 3 or 4 times. I want to help people. Why? Well, it has to do with people are good. Okay, why? What does that matter to you? Maybe it comes down to all of the fact that we're all connected. We see ourselves in other people. Okay, so how does that manifest itself into people, right? So really try to make it personal to you. Don't try to talk about overarching ideas because anybody could have written that overarching idea. If I can read an essay and I don't know who it is and I know who you are as a person, that is not a great essay. It doesn't show me anything about you. So really try to have a high bar of how much personalization there is in that essay. The next thing is literally just write something. My opinion, you should take a pen and a paper and just write your thoughts out. Don't take a computer, don't go on ChatGPT, don't ask different, like Gen AI stuff to write your stuff for you. Literally write some notes and just get something down on paper. The next thing is you got to rewrite and revise that 20 times. Now I just put 20 as a number there. Originally I put 1,000 because that's what it felt like, but rewrite and revise so many different times. Iteration is the best way, I think, in general life. The parents can tell us, like, iterating over things multiple times is the best way of winning at things. So really iterate. Next thing, which I think should be tied into that rewrite and revise, is get trusted mentors, parents, friends, and counselors to give feedback. So you are not reading your own college admissions essay, somebody else is. So what might be clear to you when you write your essay is not clear to other people. That's where other people's opinions are super important. Be careful of who you do give that essay to, because this is a personal piece of you. So really try to make it personal, and don't get scared to give that to other people. But if it's very personal and you don't want to share it with someone, don't share it with them. This is your essay, this is your college admission cycle. The last thing is turn in what you're proud of. So you are going to end up going to college. You should be admitted or not admitted. Nobody else is in your place. Nobody else can take your life away from you or whatever you're doing in that situation. So turn in what you're proud of. If you and your mom or your dad have a disagreement about something and you're really strong in that you're right, do it. There's no right answer. This is going to be different advice than the parents are going to give. I didn't even tell my dad that I was going to say this, but really this is your own essay. This is your own application process. Yes, please.
How much similarities would be there in access to colleges you are applying? So you said the number around 15. So just a rough number of 15 colleges you are applying
yes,
for.
yes.
So what kind of similarities you have for all those 15 applications you're going to apply?
Nice, yeah. So this is the last point, which is great, which is the question was, if you're applying to around 15 colleges, how many of those essays apply to multiple of those colleges? Is it correct?
How much percentage of your...
Percentage. So that really depends, school to school. But I will say, like, you've done a really good job at writing these specific essays. You can totally apply them to different schools. A lot of different schools have really short answer questions. Maybe you can boil down what a longer question answer was to that short point. You're the same person, so you can't like keep making up different stuff for different schools. Like, really show yourself. And what that means is you have, or you're gonna use a lot of the same material. What used to happen, and I think still happens to some extent, is something called the Common App essay, which is this, the personal statement. So the Common App is a place where you can apply to a bunch of different schools, and a lot of schools are on the Common App. And what they had was something called a personal statement. So it used to be around either 650 or 750 words, and you could choose one of 7 prompts. And if there's any essay that you really needed to be very specific about, write the best, it was your personal statement. This is where you come across, you have to boil your whole life down to what's most important to you in 750 words. And that was the Common App essay. So this is one of the 7 prompts that existed out there. So that question was shown to all of your Common App schools. Versus other schools weren't on the Common App, so they didn't see this. But what you can do is, you spent all this time really creating this great essay, you can just take it, adapt it to a different question, maybe on the UC application, and then you can use it there. So it depends a lot on schools, but that's something that you should do. When you're applying to those 15 schools, you should look through all the different questions that exist out there, say, hey, what type of questions are similar? How can I answer these questions the same and adapt?
Those questions also changing normally?
They sometimes do.
It's a typical parent question, so let me try the parent answer. There are 15 colleges, we're all looking at numbers, right? So somebody's going to want one question, and somebody's going to want, there's one with 8. So you're like, oh my God, I'm going to write 30 stories. No, it actually boils down to about 7 or 8 only. So 15, think of it this way, 15 colleges, at the most 6 or 7 essays. But each essay has a core that is 80% the same and 20% you change. Does that help you? Yeah. So it's not like 30, 40 essays. You can't write that much. You will end up writing 6, 7, 8 at the most, but only a little bit of tweaking. So you delete, add paragraphs, the core remains the same. It's actually not that much work. It's a lot of thinking, but not that much work.
just if we had time extra, I could talk about a little bit about the sample essay prompts. But before we do that, I think maybe I'll talk about how you can get help on your college applications. One is the great CPP, sorry, CCP, not that. The CPP, which looks amazing. The next is you can contract out college counselors, or you can talk to school college counselors. They're a great place to get started on a lot of information. I think one of the best ways of doing something is to understand how other people do it, right, and leverage the information of other people. So read examples of essays. There was a book that was like the 50 top Harvard essays. You can go on websites, try out different things. If anything, you get to read some really, really cool stories. Worst case, best case, you get to have understanding and some sort of insight on how to write your own essay. I would say do not use ChatGPT, do not use generative AI in general, don't use Gemini, don't use Claude. One of the worst ways of thinking is having someone else do it for you, and it's very easy to tell when something's written by generative AI, like extremely easy. And if a college admissions officer has any hint that you can do it, they have about 60,000 other applicants they can take. So as soon as they get a hint of that, they're just gonna throw away your application. So do not use generative AI to think. Think on yourself, by yourself, and that actually will make it more personalized. The way that these models were trained is by taking, they're the average of all of our thoughts and all of our writing, and so like it's not gonna be great anyway. Use your parents as a resource, your mentors, and current college students. Yeah, any questions on this? Yeah, please.
In CPP, we also have college counseling. So if you need help with any of this stuff, you can just reach out to us. That's all.
Cool, thanks. In CPP, they have college, just repeating it for everybody, college counseling.
So you mentioned, so if you want to go historically, what type of questions have colleges asked? Is there a, just Google it up, or is there a repository that you go to, say, we generally like questions schools have, or the top tier schools have, or tier 2 schools have. So at least we have a framework of, okay, what kind of type of question. I get the point that you have to showcase who you are. Right? That's one thing I get out of it. Just be authentic and showcase who you are. But there are different dimensions to it, the way people evaluate you, right? So getting the sense of what type of questions were asked the colleges might be helpful.
Yeah, so the question was what type of questions are asked by colleges? And that was the whole point, I think, of the first part is where they're gonna ask you about extracurriculars, they're gonna ask you about your academics, your personal pursuits. A lot of them are leadership based, so for example, this UC question is about leadership, how you show leadership in your life. One of them is about intellectual vitality, what really, really makes you at the core like super curious, which is this first Stanford essay. Another one of them is just your own background and identity. So these are the type of questions that are being asked. They are a position for you to talk about all of those things that you've developed through your 4 years of high school. As for the specific type of questions that are asked, I would think of leadership. I would think about all those categories that we talked about the first part. Do you have more information on that?
They change every year.
But the
Every question changes. The core is the same. So the word leadership is asked 15 different ways.
The way I look at it is, you can have a math problem, right? But you can approach it multiple ways because they can put a twist to it, but the core is the same and how you approach is different. So if the kid has gone and looked at different angles, when he goes and gives the exam, he knows how to approach, he can put two and two together.
Yeah.
Similarly, if I have my kid look at these things, start thinking from different dimensions, when the time comes, he's going to be much better prepared for it.
So that's a, having done it and having had my pushback from, that's a parent way of thinking about it. If I can just share a structure so that if they thought this way, it'll apply at 4 different places, it failed. Don't do that. Give the question to a kid and just let them write it. Give the second one and the third one. Let them come up with the pattern. The more you try to expose them to pattern, the more it will be depersonalized. They need to write their own thing. So the way I would do it is, if I may, if this is, he said, go ahead and write this. Don't even worry about the second one. Forget this. Just write this one. Once they've written this, and then they've written this, then there are 15 colleges, right? So let them go ahead and discover themselves. A lot of this is about discovering oneself. They don't even know they did certain things that will help. I have some specific examples. I know a kid whose GPA was 3.9, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 4 years. 3.9, 2.9, 4.0, 4.0. So their average was not 4. So they would get rejected. And this is a classic case that admission counselors come to schools and talk about. The essays showed that a family member had died in that particular year. It had affected their studies. So they basically went down for 1 year. And so then this kid in that essay was able to explain how much it affected them, and then how they got out of it, and how hard it was for them to kind of climb up again and study hard. So they took that kid over the flat 4.0 kid. Why? They showed resilience. So these essays, there's just no way to come up with a formula. Everybody is different. So if you start answering 1, 2, 3, 4, it really builds that story. It brings out each person. So I would say let them write 1, 2, 3, then a pattern would emerge. That's what I would do.
You
want to show some thumbs up?
Yeah, just within that.
Done. We'll finish this slide.
So just Josh mentioned like we have almost 6,000 applications going to a college, and if you have a
60,000.
maybe 60,000. So how well they have been read by the counselor there?
The question is, if there's thousands of applications, how do they read? So having personal experience from a particular college. So in the admission season, in the morning at 8 o'clock, there's a large conference table, think of it that way. And even today, people have files, folders. Each counselor, there's like I said, 20 people, will take home a stack of files and read them all day and come back next day and say, these are my top so many. Then the second counselor reads, so when 2 people have said yes, yes, they go to the next level, and they're levels. So thousands and thousands of applications. The first cut is usually a GPA, the academic. So if a college is not going to take anybody under 3.2 GPA, they'll just not touch them unless they have some special circumstances. So that's the first cut. And then the second cut, they sit down and actually all argue amongst themselves which are the best candidates. Every school is different, but this is generally the profile. I'm told that the time is up, so Josh, do you have any other slide you want to show, one last one, or so we can just take questions and then turn it over to you. Any other questions that are critical? Any of the students have questions? Anything the college row wants to add about anything else that can help the students? There's so many resources for you. Please use them. Please talk to the counselors here. Talk to your college, school counselors. Talk to one of the best resources you have is the 1 year. If you're in 11th grade and you know the 12th grader who got to a certain college now, like we're sitting in March, right? Yeah, so March, April, you'll find out. Let's say you want to go to a college. Within the next month in your schools, you'll find out who's going there. Talk to them. When they get in, keep a dialogue with them. They'll tell you what they did, how they wrote, how they packaged themselves. That's a wonderful resource a lot of students don't look at. It's the people who went into the college you want to go to, your alumni.
One last thing. I seem to maybe not always have technical advice, but what I will say is colleges don't determine self-worth at all. So if you don't get into the college that you really, really want, that's their loss. That's not your loss, right? So really try to just focus on what makes you happy. Focus on getting better every day, and that's all that matters. It really does not matter what college you go to. I know so many people who didn't go to college and have built amazing, amazing things. I know so many people that didn't go to college, didn't build anything amazing, but still are happy. And that happiness part does not come from a title or a piece of paper that you put up on your wall. So please focus on that, rather than always focusing on colleges. I know that's, again, why could you go call sub, why could you give it?
Let's have a round of applause for them.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, JJG. It was wonderful. I just want to make a couple of comments. As Darlene said, we have a group of counselors here, among them also a person who has created a career library, and she has contact with people from different careers. So if you want to do internship in a particular career, she can put you in touch with a particular person from a particular profession, and that will be very helpful. And we have their contact information. If you want to get in touch with them, I'm sure they'll be glad to help you anytime that you need them. The other thing is, I think, to get started, I'm glad there are some 6th graders over here. I hope they're still there. Time is to get started early into your extracurricular activities, getting started into your thinking about where you want to go, what subjects you want to do, what interests you, and pursue that. One advice, when I was doing my PhD research, I used to spend a lot of time in the library reading what other research other people have done. And one of my seniors once came by, he said, if you just keep reading what others have done, that won't take you too far. You have to start thinking what you want to do. So you have to have a lot of knowledge as background. You have to read a lot, but you also have to start thinking what interests me, as Josh was saying. What I want to be, and be creative in that area. How can you contribute? So I'll stop here, and again, thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you here, and very, very helpful. And I request everyone to put your chair in the back before you go.